The big lie exposed on the floor of the European Union. So now what, Pope Francis? Little Manny Macron and the little ferret up in Canada stand strong with Volodymyr Zelensky, while Jeffrey Sachs blasts him for pushing World War III. Tulsi Gabbard, Roy Schneider abandoning Joe the Running Man Biden and his Democrat War Party as AOC gets a tongue lashing from her own constituents. Buckle up, folks. The left is in total disarray, and we're in for a bumpy ride. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I am Michael Matt, and this is the Remnant Underground. Tonight, a scandal of truly epic proportions. The biggest lie in human history, perhaps. And right down here in the Remnant Underground, we told you so. So, speaking of Big Brother, wars, rumors of wars, now even nuclear war in the offing, it's all back on the table. 105 years after the Fatima miracle of the sun, we are actually looking at the very real potential possibility of the annihilation of nations, including our own. We look to our fearless leaders right now, both in the church and in the state, and we see a joke. We find the fusion of stupidity and insanity, such as...
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
Now, normally this would be funny, but this isn't funny, friends. This poor old nut job has access to the nuclear codes. Do you remember how the left freaked out at the thought of Donald Trump having access to those codes?
This is not someone who should ever have the nuclear codes, because it's not hard to imagine Donald Trump leading us into a war.
Hey, Hillary, it's 3 a.m. And guess who's answering the phone in the White House?
President Biden telling Democratic donors in New York on Thursday, quote, "We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis."
You would think with such an alarming statement, the president would be ready to answer questions and assure Americans. But look what he did instead, literally running away.
No. Why is he running? Can we just ask that question, the most obvious question? I know it seems silly and seems small in comparison, but why is he running? Why is the leader of the free world running around like a lunatic these days? This is bizarre. See Joe run. He's like an 8-year-old with those little light-up sneakers, all happy that he can that he can run. And everybody's just looking at him going, what the hell's going on? Not just people on the right, people on the left, everybody. What's going on? You got this Tulsi Gabbard phenomenon now. She's running too. Only she's running away from this nut job. And I don't blame her.
Pro-war Democratic Party of today has led us to the brink of nuclear war. This party is led by warmongers who are firmly in the grips of the military-industrial complex and don't know or don't care about the cost of war or who pays the price.
Politicians, actors, even comedians. Rob Schneider running for his life.
I don't want the Democratic Party trying to run my life, and there's not one aspect of your life that they don't want to interfere with. So I had it with them. So.
Ooh, Rob, the Rob man, doing the Robster, done with the Democrat psychos, which is exactly what I would do. Anyone who's thinking, anyone who has a brain, should be running from these people because now they're actually getting prepared to engage in nuclear war. And here's what's happening to people who stay with the running man in his plan to blow up the world. Here's what happens.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because they're a bunch of WARHAWKS. Okay? You originally voted, you ran as an outsider, yet you've been voting to start this war in Ukraine. You're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization?
This poor chick, Sandy Cortez. she's just a little predictable neocon like the rest. She's not an independent thinker. She's not a progressive. She's a neocon war hawk. Because they all are. Republicans and Democrats, half the Republicans, all the Democrats, they're all the same creatures. You know, it's never even occurred to half of them that every thinking person in this state, in this country, knows exactly what's going on here. We know what's going on in Ukraine. In a minute, in fact, we're going to take a look at what one Jeffrey Sachs is saying about Running Man in his bid to start World War III. Spoiler alert, for the first time ever, I agree with Jeffrey Sachs. I really agree with Jeffrey Sachs. More on that in a moment. But first, let's seek some experts. Because I know there are plenty of you out there who are still thinking that we have to hate Vladimir Putin because he's attacking Tevye and Golda and the three daughters over there in Anatevka, right? And Zelensky is the only thing that's standing between Anatevka and Armageddon. It's just a ridiculous, stupid lie. So let's consult someone who actually knows what's going on. Colonel Douglass McGregor, okay, former senior advisor to the U.S. Secretary of Defense, which means he's a military strategist who knows a thing about war. And here's what he has to say about what's really going on over there.
For the last 7 months, even though people in the West will never ever admit it, the truth is that President Putin has exercised enormous restraint with regard to the use of his military power. We've never seen more than 20% of the Russian ground force in Ukraine. And most of the regular Russian ground force was subsequently withdrawn after the first 4 months, during which the Ukrainian army that we built over several years was largely destroyed. And what's happened now, I think, in the Kremlin is that Mr. Putin and his advisors have all concluded there's no chance of negotiating an end to this conflict. I think he really clung to that hope, even in the middle of April, when it was clear that we in London would not permit Zelensky and Kyiv to make any sort of a compromise, to accept neutrality, for instance, off the table.
Absolutely, Colonel. But again, you don't actually have to be a full-bird colonel to know this stuff. We looked at it, 7-8 months ago down here in the underground, 7 months ago. Been saying the same thing all along from the start. Lost a lot of good friends because we're not backing down on this now or ever, because this is the same as the mask up crowd, the follow the science crowd. You know, those guys. The Ukrainian thing is the same lie. It's another aspect of the same lie. You just can't say this on TV. Well, now it's downright un-American to criticize Mr. Green Tea, the liberator of Ukraine.
In contrast to Soviet times, Pride marches have been held in Ukraine since 2015. Police escorts are present thanks to President Volodymyr Zelensky's government, which backs free speech and assembly for the LGBT+ community.
Everything from the Vatican to Kyiv to Washington, D.C., it all seems like it's first and foremost about sodomy, doesn't it?
It's my great honor, and I mean this sincerely, to present the National Humanities Medal to Sir Elton John.
Meanwhile, the bad guy Vladimir Putin is over there in Moscow banning gay pride parades. But we're not supposed to pay any attention to that because he is evil. Evil, he is Satan. Vladimir Putin is your public enemy number one because they told you to be afraid of him on the TV. Putin started this war. Look how bad and evil he is. Why they blew up his bridges, they blew up his pipeline, and then he fired back some rockets at the Ukrainian people. No, actually, not at the people. Tactical hits, tactical strikes in Ukraine in retaliation for the fact that they blew up his bridge to Crimea and blew up Europe's supply of oil and gas, the pipeline from Russia, right? It's called war. When you start sabotaging your enemy, they're going to fire back. As soon as Putin fires back, well, they come on CNN, they say, look, he's just firing missiles at people for no reason. It's just such a scandal. He's just trying to kill people. And you're buying into this? I mean, even people in this audience, you're buying into this? Putin started the war? The war that's been a civil war that we started, the U.S. started, Barack Obama started it 7, 8, 9 years ago. So NATO could have a foothold on the back door of Russia. How many more times do we have to say this before you pull your head out of the sand and see what they're doing to you, doing to us, doing to our country now? Nuclear war is in the balance. But don't confuse the formerly masked up masses with the facts. In fact, Walter, I think this is the 4th or 5th time we've played this. Let's just play the facts again. Shall we? Let's do that.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2017 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
What's your answer to that? Have you noticed that no one ever even tries to answer that bit of tape? Klobuchar, John McCain, Lindsey Graham over there declaring war on Putin, declaring war on Russia in 2016, and nobody ever answers it. They just go, "You're a Putin lover," as though that's an answer. That's not an answer. That's a stupid ad hominem attack. I'm not defending Putin. I'm defending the truth, as we've been doing down here for 7 or 8 years. But the longer this nonsense goes, the more it does seem to be we're defending Putin a little bit. Because everything else is insane right now. Nobody's talking about negotiating our way out of what looks to be World War III. You understand the church's teaching on just war, right? You can't go to war without trying to avoid it first, not morally. You can't do this. Vladimir Putin spent a lot of years, as Colonel Doug McGregor just pointed out. He's actually been very patient considering what's been going on in his own backyard. You know, and that's why they're not negotiating. That should be the takeaway from tonight's program. Those of you who are still defending Mr. Green Tea. Why won't they negotiate? Why from the very beginning have they said, we will not talk to Vladimir Putin?
I'm not calling Putin. I have no plans to call Putin right now.
Why are they not letting their little puppet Zelensky negotiate his way out? He's running his mouth like crazy. He's good at spending our money. He's ticking off the whole world. He's ticking off the bear. He has no problem with that because you know what? Joe Biden is going to come in there and fight his war for him, and he knows it. So no, Mr. Zelensky, you are not allowed to negotiate for peace. And you know why? Because they want this war. They need this war. They have been declaring this war for years. NATO, the US, the UN. Because they can't control Russia. See, this is the problem, friends. You don't have to be a Russophile, whatever you would call that. You don't have to be, Mother Russia is the greatest thing that ever. No. But you can understand what's going on here. Russia, precisely because she's a proud, independent nation, more so now than ever, they know they cannot control Russia. And if they can't control Russia, they can't launch any sort of new world order.
Right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order.
That's what's going on here. Meanwhile, John Bolton is saying what we should do is we should just go kill Vladimir Putin.
Well, you know, he's the center of command and control of the Russian military. National Command Authority is what we call it. He's a legitimate military target. And I think, while plenty of other things we can do as well, that he needs to know that he's on our target list at that point.
You recognize that guy with the big white mustache? You should, because he's been blowing people up for years.
Bolton is a textbook example of an ultra-hawkish neocon. He has staunchly supported every single recent U.S. war and played a significant role in some of the most catastrophic and criminal military conflicts of the 21st century. Bolton has proposed bombing Iran and North Korea and called for harsh sanctions and regime change in Syria and Venezuela. As a top official in the Bush administration, Bolton was one of the architects of the illegal 2003 invasion of Iraq.
Now, let's just review. We got to get this right. We're literally running out of time, okay? Let's review. 8 years after a U.S.-backed regime change in Ukraine that resulted in a civil war that's been raging ever since, our guy John Bolton, Mr. Neocon, Warhawk, he wants to kill Vladimir Putin. And there are people who actually think that's going to end well. So for 2 years now, they locked us down with their lies. And now they're lying about this. And even some of their own have had a snoutful. They've had quite enough. Okay, again, you don't have to be a traditional Catholic. You don't have to be a conservative to see what's happening. I have been an outspoken critic of Jeffrey Sachs for years. He's a UN guy, a population control guru. Don't have a lot in common with this guy at all. But even Sachs knows they're lying. And he's on TV begging his constituents, his followers, to listen up. They are lying to us.
The war in Ukraine, just to finish the introductory view, could have been avoided and should have been avoided through diplomacy. What President Putin of Russia was saying for years was, do not expand NATO into the Black Sea, not to Ukraine, much less to Georgia, which if people look on the map, straight across to the eastern edge of the Black Sea. Russia said, this will surround us, this will jeopardize our security, let us have diplomacy. The United States rejected all diplomacy. I tried to contact the White House at the end of 2021. In fact, I did contact the White House and said, there will be war unless the U.S. enters diplomatic talks with President Putin over this question of NATO enlargement. I was told the U.S. will never do that. That is off the table. And it was off the table. Now we have a war that's extraordinarily dangerous.
So what's your answer to that? Oh, well, you're going to consult Jeffrey Sachs now, Michael Matt? Oh, boy, you've really lost it. Jeffrey Sachs, he's a Putin lover. I wish we could drag the level of discourse out of the kindergarten. Don't you? Aren't you tired of it? We're trying to get to the truth. And getting to the truth at this point means trying to prevent our country from being nuked. Jeffrey Sachs is no friend of mine, no friend of ours, but he's making the point that we've been saying down here, which was why we're citing him, which is why he's an authority, precisely because he is on the left, precisely because he is a progressive, right? We've been making this point down here for months, that it's all about the Great Reset, and Jeffrey Sachs, like us, sees Russia as the monkey wrench in the works. You see? So Sachs is freaking out. Negotiate with Putin, for heaven's sakes, he's saying. Or our whole globalist project is going to be blown to hell. Come on, negotiate. Don't go to the war option. Don't use the nuclear option. Right? That's what he's saying. Because Sachs is a true progressive. He's not a war hawk, and neither am I. I was against the invasion of Iraq in 2003 by lunatics like Lindsey Graham and George W. Bush, right? Now, Sachs hates those guys, hates those neocons, and so do I. They wrecked our country. They wrecked the Mideast. They destabilized the whole world, and now they're going to try to do it again. Well, let's just go shoot Putin. You see? Even a guy like Jeffrey Sachs knows, a Jewish guy from Columbia University, he's an honest guy. He knows they're using Ukrainians as human shields, just as we know that's what's happening. Human shields in a proxy war against Russia that has been in the works for years. All the way back to Barack Obama, when you defend Mr. Green Tea over there. Do you realize you're carrying water for Barack Obama? Do you realize that? He's the one who started this. He and the neocons like McCain and Graham and the whole host of them. That's all this is. Friends, the sooner that we all figure out that Zelensky is not defending Anatevka, Tevye and Golda, the better for all of us, including our country. We got to stop buying into the narrative that they're feeding to you. The same narrative, only in a different aspect of it, the same lie, that just got through locking us all down for 2 years. You want to keep us indoors? You want to keep us away from each other? What would do a better job at that than world war? You see? So we can build back better. Now they're talking about fighting to the death. As Catholics, as Christians, listen to what they're saying. We're going to fight to the death. Really? Really? So you're going to fight to the death, Mr. Green Tea, while all these innocent Ukrainians get slaughtered, and I'm supposed to support you? You nut job? Sit down and negotiate so the Ukrainian people don't have to die anymore. You can't do that, can you? Because you and your young globalist leaders, your Davos people, your Biden people, they're not going to let you do that, are they? We're refusing to negotiate for peace, aren't we? Because we don't want peace. We want total war. Friends, this is immoral. You cannot support this. Especially when you see who you're in bed with. Oh my gosh, you're in bed with a little ferret on this one.
Our friend, Volodymyr Zelensky.
He's a wartime leader who has become a symbol of resilience.
You all need to do more to stop Russia.
President Zelensky's speech tailor-made for Canada.
As friends, you can count on our unwavering and steadfast support.
There he is, a little ferret. But he's not alone. All of Gustav's young lovers leaders are all down with Mr. Green Tea. Here's Manny Macaroon. It's going to take a lot more than handshakes. You see, Mr. Green Tea, he wants more, and he's demanding that we bleed ourselves dry to give him exactly what he wants.
At this time, we have two key financial needs of the country. That's $38 billion to make up for the deficit of our budget for next year, and other $17 billion that were verified by the World Bank and needed to rebuild the critical infrastructure. We need credit limits to purchase gas and coal for the future heating season. The scope of this year's support should be not less than $5 billion.
What? Some uppity foreigner in a t-shirt demanding money for his critical economic needs? We have critical economic needs too, buddy. Who are you, troll? Go away.
So here's the question, friends. How much longer are you going to sit there and let them lie to you? How much more of their Kool-Aid are you going to drink? Right? And I know most of you get it. I'm sorry if I seem exasperated. It's because I am, because there's too many of us who are still buying this nonsense. Really? It's extremely dangerous and it's wrong. Okay? We're on the wrong side if you're supporting Mr. Green Tea here. And we gotta decide which side we're going to be on. Yeah, because we're running out of time. I'm out here every week creating a paper trail a mile long for them to come after me, to come after my family, to come after my kids once they've stolen enough elections to hunt down dissenters like me. And guess what? I don't care. Because I can never be free. I can never live in the gulag they're trying to create for us right now, and neither can you. And that's why we need to wake up. We need to speak out while we still can. Because obviously, with the FBI knocking down doors all over the place, I'm not sure how much more any of us, how much longer any of us are going to have the luxury of being able to speak. We need to speak out now and stop letting our emotions get the better of us. And thank God, people are speaking out. People are showing courage. I'll give you a couple of examples, a couple recent examples. Muslims, right? Parents, Muslim parents in Dearborn, Michigan. Last week, we talked about Italy's new soon-to-be Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. You know, people are like, oh man, she gets wrong. She was even wrong about the Ukraine. Lots of people got Ukraine wrong to begin with. So Meloni didn't get it right. Okay, but she gets a lot of things right, such as who's really behind all this? George Soros.
È esattamente quello che serve a chi ha utilizzato l'immigrazione irregolare in questi decenni per coronare il grande disegno della speculazione finanziaria di privare i nazioni e i popoli della loro identità, perché quando non hai più radici sei schiavo e quando sei schiavo fai gli interessi di Soros.
People are broken right now. We don't have any statesmen left in the world. They've been exposed to the rot for too long. The Catholic Church has been missing in action for too long in Catholic countries like, supposedly Catholic countries like Italy. So we got to go with what best we can. The people who are at least partly doing the right thing, as she is. And so it's a very good sign that someone like Italy's next prime minister has had quite enough of Soros. That's a good sign. And that's why Pope Francis is not supporting her. Because he's all into the Soros agenda for open borders, isn't he? So people have had enough of perverts perverting and assaulting our children in public schools. People have had enough of Pope Francis, who was out there again last week, attacking us again. This guy needs help. He has anger management issues. He needs to see a doctor, or perhaps he, like Joe Biden, is simply out of his cotton-picking mind. I don't know. But here's what happened. You got the holy man, the Holy Father. He's saying Mass over there in the Vatican. He's celebrating the holy anniversary of the 60th anniversary of the opening of Vatican II, which was a smashing success, by the way, Vatican II. Anyway, the holy man is saying Mass, begins to give a couple of words for his homily, because let's face it, he can really put the homo back in homily. So he's given a little homily there. And all of a sudden, he simply loses his temper with us, with traditional Catholics. He starts accusing traditionalists of backwardness, of lacking in love. He says, quote, we are Pelagian egoisms, which put our own tastes and plans above the love that pleases God. So says Francis, the guy who chit-chats with the God of surprises, so that he can put his own interests ahead of everything else in the world and then tell everybody the God of surprises wanted him to do it. Yes, indeed. So he's attacking us. And we have to respond. I mean, this from the guy who told the world that it's a sin not to get vaccinated, since vaccines, according to the Holy Father, stop the spread of COVID.
Vacunas para protegernos del COVID-19. Ellas traen esperanza para acabar la pandemia, pero solo si están disponibles para todos y si colaboramos.
Now, sounds good, Holy Father, but are you sure about that?
If you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others. You do it for all of society. That's what I said. Today, this turned out to be complete nonsense. In a COVID hearing in the European Parliament, one of the Pfizer directors just admitted to me, at the time of introduction, the vaccine had never been tested on stopping the transmission of the virus. This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. Please watch the video until the end.
Voor u, mevrouw Small, heb ik de volgende vraag waar ik een duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No, we had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
This is scandalous. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others. Now this turned out to be a cheap lie.
So now what? Now what? Francis just used the chair of Peter, the moral authority of the Catholic Church, to vaccinate the world with an untested vaccine. Forget about who am I to judge. Now it really should be whom, as in whom are we to judge first? Bill Gates, Tony Fauci, or Pope Francis?
So what the authorities told us about stopping the spread with a jab was a total lie. Take it to protect Granny, a historic falsehood. Whilst safe for most, though we can't be sure, we don't have long-term data, large numbers of people around the world have suffered severe side effects, and some, including former BBC presenter Lisa Shaw, have died.
Francis had the flippin' CEO of Pfizer to the Vatican giving a speech about this product, this vaccine. So he should have known. But instead, Francis was accusing all of us of doing exactly what we now know he was doing. Remember when Francis said, quote, "Frequently people let themselves be influenced by the ideology of the moment, often bolstered by baseless information or poorly documented facts." No, Francis, okay? You were the one who was influenced by the ideology of the moment, weren't you, Your Holiness? You were the one who recklessly acted on poorly documented facts, didn't you, Your Holiness? And that's why, by the way, Catholics have some of the highest percentages of vaccine acceptance among religious people in the world today. Because Francis used that little white robe of his to push a globalist political agenda on them all.
Estamos unidos norte, centro y sur de América Latina y el Caribe para promover y apoyar la vacunación de todos y todas. Les animo a actuar responsablemente como miembros de la gran familia humana, procurando y protegiendo nuestra salud integral y la vacunación universal.
Vacunarse con vacunas autorizadas por las autoridades competentes es un acto de amor, y ayudar a que la mayoría de la gente lo haga es...
Very profound, Francis. Well, now you've made your bed, and you're going to have to sleep in it. And we're going to make sure that nobody ever forgets what you did. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the legacy of Pope Francis.
According to Eurostat, in the month of July, the excess mortality rate all across European Union went up 16% more than the average of 2016 and 2019. Now, if you look on the map here, this is released by the Eurostat. It's not from us. If you look on this map, you will see that the countries with the highest vaccination rate have right now the highest mortality rate. So obviously we asked, is there a connection between being vaccinated and having a higher mortality rate? Everybody's avoiding answering this, I would say, logical question.
Nice work, Holiness. Seriously. Way to just take your orders from Davos exactly as we've been saying you are doing down here for the past 10 years almost. Nice work. But now you're busted. And it's no wonder that your own are figuring you out. It's not just Archbishop Vigano anymore. Cardinals of the Catholic Church have figured you out. Cardinal Muller, just last week, got it exactly right where you, Francis, are concerned.
Thinks this is a system of self-revelation and is the occupation of the Catholic Church, is a hostile takeover of the Church of Jesus Christ.
The question is, why is Francis taking over the church? Why is there a hostile takeover of the Catholic Church going on right now? Why is Francis helping Bill Gates vaccinate the whole world? Why is Francis going after meat? Why is Francis pushing and endorsing electric cars? Why is Francis the biggest green globalist guru in the world right now? Why is he helping Davos establish a globalist green dictatorship, in fact? Because if you're going to take down what's left of Western civilization, friends, you have to first dismantle the thing that built Western civilization. And that's the Catholic Church. The thing that Cardinal Muller says, if Francis gets his way, is going to be destroyed.
Attempt to destroy the church. Is that what you see here?
Yeah, if they will succeed, that will be the end of the Catholic Church.
The end of the Catholic Church. Well, while we're watching the end of the United States of America, because that's what this is all about as well. You know it's true. So you're losing the spiritual authority, and now you're losing the economic authority. It all has to be torn down, made plain, so we can build back better this new world order. You see? So yeah, they're going after the United States right now. The United States has been the lifeblood of the world's economy for a long time. They have to get rid of it. Equity and inclusion mean that the Catholic Church must be torn down. Equity and inclusion mean that America must die, right? So why do you think Joe Biden has opened our borders? Why do you think he's overseeing the disbanding of this country, the destruction of this country? Why do you think he cut off our pipelines and our energy independence? Why do you think he's spending billions of dollars, US dollars, your tax dollars, to fight a proxy war in Russia? How much longer do you think our country can take this? Are you beginning to figure it out? They are euthanizing our country, and at the same time, they're euthanizing the Catholic Church, these globalists. You don't care about the Catholic Church? Fine, let's just concentrate on the United States of America. Because where do you think this is going to end up? Will there be a country left for our children to grow up in if this continues, even for a few more months? Or will our children become transhumanized global citizens of a new world order? Your children, your grandchildren, do they have a future? What will happen to them? Turn off the TV and ask yourself the question, what is going to happen to your children? Stand with Ukraine? Are you kidding? For God's sake, wake up.